2014 Forest Hill Drives by J.Cole is undeniably one of the greatest rap albums in modern time. Released on December 9th, 2014, it became J.Cole's most commercially successful album, going diamond with absolutely no features. If that doesn't tell you all you need to know about the quality of this album, then I don't know what will. The album is also my personal favourite of all time, so when it came to choosing an album for my first ever deep dive analysis, the choice was very simple. The album shows a real journey of Cole, going from a very young and confused youth to a very mature man. He speaks about a lot of the mistakes he's made throughout his life and talks on how they've impacted and helped him. He speaks to the audience directly, telling them not to make the mistakes that he's made. Real quick before we get into the video, I do just want to say a massive thank you. I released my first ever video about 2 or 3 weeks ago, depending on when this video goes out, and the support on that has been genuinely insane. I wasn't expecting it to do nearly as well as it did, and all the lovely comments that you guys are leaving is making my day. If you haven't watched my analysis on Count Me Out by Kendrick Lamar, I will leave a quick link in the description, and make sure you go check that out after this video, of course. Anyway, let's start looking at the album, and the only place to start is with the intro. Cole repeatedly asks both himself and the audience if they truly want to be happy. Cole is asking the audience as well as himself whether they actually want freedom and happiness, or whether there is a bit of a twisted part of them that thrives on the conflict that they create in life. It's a very negative way to live that a lot of people actually live by. It could also be talking about the culture of Hollywood and celebrity life. Cole is asking celebrities whether they truly want to be happy and care for those around them, or whether they actually just care about making a quick buck and will turn to conflict and burning bridges to do so. This intro is short, but it perfectly sets the scene for the entire album, which is going against Hollywood and fame for true personal happiness. We then get the first proper song on the album, if you want to call it that, which is January 28th, which was named after Cole's birthday. As I mentioned earlier, Cole mentions a lot of the mistakes in his life, and he does this by taking the listener on a journey. He goes from when he was younger to when he was chasing fame to where he is now. With that knowledge, you'd probably expect January 28th to be talking about Cole's very young years and speak about where he grew up perhaps. However, Cole chooses not to do this, and instead of talking about his personal experiences, he decides to give some advice to his younger audience. He reaches out to his younger fans and gives them some must-know knowledge about the world and how to act in it. This can be heard in lyrics such as, "Share my life on the stage in front of strangers who know a person far too well, and that's the danger." Here, Cole is telling young people not to overshare their issues with people. The world and the internet is a very mean and toxic place. Oversharing on small and even major issues can make them 10 times worse. Instead, Cole advises his younger audience to deal with them privately, surrounded by loved ones who will support them. You also can't talk about this song without mentioning the last couple of lines where Cole says, "You people might be L, or you might be Kane, or you might be Slick Rick with 19 chains, or you might be Drizzy Drake or Kendrick Lamar, but check the birthday, you ain't the god." Cole is comparing himself to Rakim or Rakim. I never know how you say that. I do apologize. I am going to call him Rakim, but if this is wrong, I am sorry. Cole chooses this comparison because both him and Rakim share a birthday, which is January 28th. Now, you could say that this is a friendly little diss at artists like Drake and Kendrick, but you could also look at it a bit differently. Cole choosing to compare himself to someone who still has a lot of influence on the rap game and the world in general is probably an intentional choice. He could be telling his audience that his words, like Rakim's, will still be relevant and good knowledge in years to come. His words won't become irrelevant as time goes on, and they could be passed down across multiple generations. He could also be telling the listener to be wary of fake rappers, which I think is a very important topic, especially with the events that we saw play out in the past year. But before we create any enemies with Drake stans, let's move on to the next song, which is Wet Dreamz. This song is the first real big hit on the album and features Cole speaking about the first time he has sex with a girl. The song has an almost jolly and upbeat tone, perhaps connoting how Cole felt at the time. Now, I do understand a lot of critics of the album say that this song is a bit overly personal and a bit of an uncomfortable listen. However, I believe it's important to apply the theme and meaning of the album to this song. While I do believe that this is maybe a bit uncomfortable at times and with certain lyrics, I believe that Cole is trying to show a happier time in his life. Nowadays, Cole may rely on fame and money for happiness, but when he was younger, something small and trivial like having sex made all the difference to him. I do want to take a bit of a stretch and say that the uncomfortable nature of the song may have been intentional. Like I said in the beginning, Cole is trying to deter the audience from making the same mistakes he made when he was younger. And perhaps Cole created an intentionally uncomfortable listening to deter his young audience from bragging about sleeping with a woman. He's shown that when you're on the other end of it, it doesn't feel right to listen to, so people should really really stop doing that. We then get a major shift in the mood of the album as we go from Wet Dreamz to the next song, Oh Free Adolescence. I believe that the mood shift from one song to the other connotes how Cole had to adapt and grow up quickly when he was younger. Not having a father figure meant that Cole had to mature way before his time. The first line of the song perfectly sets the scene, where Cole says, "I grew up a fucking screw up." This song is a gloomy and miserable listen, but I mean that in the best way possible. Cole is shown to the audience that at this point in his life, he wants more than what he's created for himself. He's not happy with the life he currently has, and that could be a good and a bad thing. If you look at it in a positive way, he has big dreams and aspirations for life and will stop at nothing to achieve them. However, if you look at it negatively, you could say that Cole is ungrateful for what he has. While yes, Cole is living in a poor and violent area, he probably has a lot of things going for him. Friends, family, a house to go back to is something that a lot of people don't have, and yet he wants more than this. I think Cole is trying to portray that he is ungrateful, but I think we kind of realize that later on in the album, so I will touch on that later. For now, let's move on to the next song, which is A Tale of Two Cities. This song shows us a key choice that Cole had to make in his life: either turn to gang and the street culture that he's grown up around, or pursue music. The first verse shows the choice that Cole would eventually take, which is becoming a writer and a musician. We can see this in the last line of the first verse, where Cole says, "I'm trying to write a story, can I get a glimpse?" This is clearly the better and more safer option for Cole. The second verse shares the same flow as the first verse, but the lyrics are a lot darker. Cole raps lyrics such as, "Listen up, I'm about to go and get rich, we're gonna circle around the Ville and hit a lick." This verse shows a version of Cole if music didn't work out for him. I think it also raises a very interesting question in what would Cole have become if music didn't succeed? The most likely outcome was him turning to gang and street culture and potentially dying very young, like some of his peers. However, luckily Cole is a very good rapper, so he didn't turn to that. We then take a bit of a jump in Cole's career as we move on to the next song, which is Fire Squad. Cole is no longer an aspiring rapper, but has made it as a rapper, but is struggling to turn some heads. Therefore, in order to get more eyes on him, in Fire Squad, he talks about the white appropriation in hip-hop and rap culture. He name drops white rappers like Iggy Azalea and Macklemore, with him talking about the former in the line where he says, "Watch Iggy win a Grammy as I try and crack a smile." This line, as well as the entire sort of mood of the song, portrays Cole as a very angry individual. And while yes, he may actually be angry at the white appropriation going on in rap and hip-hop, I do believe it's also a bit of a facade he's putting on. At this point in Cole's career, he really needs to get eyes on him, and the only way he feels he can do this is by lying about how he really feels. While yes, the white appropriation may make him angry, I don't believe it's this much. But by betraying himself as very angry about it, people are going to start to turn their heads and look at Cole and his work. This is again a criticism of Hollywood and celebrity culture, where many people put on a facade and lie about their true feelings in order to get a bit more money. Whether Cole is truly this angry or he is putting on a facade, he is very immature and has a lot of pent-up anger. This could perhaps because he is very out of his depth in Hollywood. He's still very young, he's still adapting to the culture, so he's probably getting a bit frustrated. We then get another shift in the mood as we move on to the next song of Saint-Tropez. Well, it's named after a place in France located right here. Cole has actually said it's not about the place at all, and instead about him moving to New York in order to pursue music.
So what this song is about is, when I turned 18, I had to say, fuck it. I moved all the way to New York City when I was 18. I ain't know nobody in New York, you know what I mean? I ain't fucking know nobody. I just went with a dream. And when I got there, I knocked on everybody's door about this music shit.
One thing that does sort of confuse me with Saint-Tropez is the placement of the song on the album. I actually believe that this song should go before Fire Squad, and it would make a lot more sense in the timeline. If Saint-Tropez was placed before Fire Squad, we would get a timeline of a young Cole trying to go to Hollywood, failing to make a name for himself, and therefore resorting to shock factor in Fire Squad in order to turn some heads. Instead, we get a timeline where Cole is already trying to turn heads before he actually moves to Hollywood. Now, don't get me wrong, both situations could have happened. I just believe that the first one would make more sense. Either way, Saint-Tropez perfectly encapsulates the lost and unknown feeling that Cole had at this time. He's very out of his depth and scared about what the future holds for him. After Saint-Tropez comes GOMD, which is a very important song in the album because it shows a lot of progression within Cole. At first, we see that Cole is losing himself in the lifestyle of Hollywood and fame. He's becoming arrogant and self-centered, and we see this in the last line of the chorus where Cole says, "Every day I thank the man upstairs that I ain't you and you ain't me." Cole believes that he's God's greatest creation and everything he does is perfect. In the bridge between the chorus and the second verse, I think we get a very, very important line where Cole says, "I want to go back to Jermaine." Cole doesn't recognize the person he's become since moving to Hollywood. He wants to go back to the person he was and the life he had before fame back in Fayetteville. I do actually want to quickly cast your minds back to Oh Free Adolescence right now. In that song, Cole hated where he was and he would have done anything to escape what he had created for himself. Now he's got what he wanted, he feels unfulfilled fulfilled and he wants to go back to what he had. Cole is trying to show his audience that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. That thing that you've been chasing for so long might not fulfill you as much as you hope it would. The second verse then shows Cole trying to grow, talking about a failing relationship he wishes he spent more time on. However, I do understand that you may not have listened to this verse if you are a thug. By the end of the song, Cole has changed a lot and he begins to use his voice for good, talking about the racist stereotypes that are integrated within American society. You can hear this when Cole raps the lines, "Why every rich black man gotta be famous, why every broke black man gotta be brainless." Cole has gone from being an arrogant, self-centered person to using his voice to spread awareness on the deep societal issues in America. Only criticism with this song is that the progression is very quick. Cole is almost transformed in one song and we don't really get a slow burn of growth. For example, we don't really see how Cole's arrogance and self-centeredness really affects his life apart from the failing relationship he talks about. However, I do understand I'm being a bit nitpicky there and you can't have it all. And perhaps Cole's growth happens quite quickly because of the nature of celebrity life. It's very, very fast paced and you don't really have time to take a moment for yourself. I also want to go back and note how when I mentioned the quick mood change between Wet Dreamz and 03 Adolescence, I also said that Cole had to adapt quickly back in Fayetteville. The same thing could be happening to him now in New York, showing that the two places are quite similar. Despite Cole trying to get away from that life, it's sort of come full circle. Or perhaps it connotes that he's not really done much growth as he's got older. He's still not spending personal time on himself and is still moving far too quickly. After GOMD, we get the biggest hit of the album, No Role Models. Cole continues to use his voice for good as he criticizes the mentality of a lot of celebrities living out in LA. He says that they are shallow people because they didn't really have any proper good role models when they were growing up and instead were raised by reality TV stars. We can hear this when Cole raps the line, "Now all I'm left with is hoes from reality shows." Hand of the script, the bitch probably couldn't read along. While I do believe that Cole is criticizing people in Hollywood here, I also believe he's sort of sympathizing with them. He doesn't believe that these are bad people, but instead just products of bad parenting. Cole continues to sympathize with them by relating their situation to his. Cole also didn't have many great role models growing up, especially a good father figure. Therefore, a lot of the behavior that they exhibit, he also does. We can hear this in lines such as, "Last night I was getting my feet rubbed by the baddest bitch," and "I came fast like 911 in white neighborhoods." Cole indulges in lust for a quick fix of happiness. Just like the people living out in LA, Cole chooses short-term happiness over long-term gains. This is probably a byproduct of Cole's poor upbringing and the lack of role models he had. This therefore shows that Cole's youth, which he's tried so hard to escape, still haunts him to this day. After No Role Models, we arrive at the next song, which is Hello. The song features Cole making a phone call to an ex-girlfriend from his youth, but she never picks up. This represents Cole trying to rekindle with the youth he tried to escape from. Like he said, he wants to go back to Jermaine, and this is his way of doing it. He's confronting his past instead of running away from it. A very good step in his growth. Now, we never hear the voice of the person he's calling, and I believe that this is actually very important. Whether this phone call happened in real life or not is not really relevant in my opinion, and I believe that the person on the other end could be anyone. As Cole became famous, he burnt a lot of bridges and ruined a lot of relationships. Now he's trying to rekindle a lot of those and build those bridges back up. Cole continues a similar sentiment as we move into Apparently. In the first verse, Cole speaks very maturely and thanks both his wife and mother for putting up with him and being there for him. We can hear this when J.Cole raps, "She puts up with my ways because she loves me like you do, and though I don't always show, I love her just like I love you." I believe a few years have passed between songs like Fire Squad and the start of GOMD and Apparently. I mainly believe this because Cole has gone through a lot of personal growth that I don't believe he could have gone through so quickly. However, the second verse of Apparently I find very, very interesting. Cole shifts away from this mature way of speaking and instead goes to speaking about his raps and his flows. Now, it may seem that Cole is regressing here and negating all the progress he's made, but I believe that this shows that Cole doesn't have everything figured out yet. He's still got a lot of growing to do and it'll probably be a lifelong journey. Cole doesn't want his audience to idolize him and believe he is perfect, so therefore he uses the second verse of Apparently to point out his many flaws. We then arrive at what I believe to be Cole's greatest and most important song, Love Yours. This song is Cole officially coming full circle from the intro. A much more mature Cole looks back and reflects on his life journey. He realizes that the material lifestyle he's chased all his life just isn't fulfilling. Instead, Cole wants to spend the rest of his life living in the moment and finding the joy in the small things. Cole wants to spend the rest of his days building strong relationships, and he also calls on the audience to do the same with the line, "You ain't never gonna be happy till you love yours." Throughout the album, Cole has acted as sort of a mentor to the listener. He's done this by pointing out his mistakes, and what I find interesting is he doesn't say that they're necessarily a bad thing. While yes, the listener shouldn't be actively trying to make these mistakes, doing them is almost inevitable. Instead, the listener should grow from these moments and develop as a person just like Cole has done. Love Yours asks the listener to be grateful for everything, whether it be good, bad, big, or small. 2014 Forest Hills Drive is, in my opinion, one of the greatest rap albums ever made. It gives the listener a peek behind the curtain of the lives of celebrities. It shows us that while many of them seem so happy, a lot of them, including Cole, are very unfulfilled in their life. Cole uses his voice for good and to motivate his listeners to seek happiness in the small things. He teaches the listener to appreciate what you currently have and not getting greedy and jealous of others. Now, some of you may have noticed that I didn't speak about Note to Self or any of the songs on the recently released bonus edition of the album. I didn't include Note to Self because a lot of my analysis was identical to what I came up with for Love Yours, and I didn't include the bonus tracks because their placement in the album isn't confirmed. When I first scripted this video, I did originally put them in, but it just felt wrong because I wasn't too sure on if they belonged in the places that I put them in. Songs like Black Man in Hollywood and Miles can fit in multiple places and still make sense. Maybe one day I will come back and analyze those songs, but for now, I just wanted to focus on the main 12 songs. I hope I was able to show you my enormous love for this album throughout the video, and if you somehow haven't listened to 2014 Forest Hills Drive, go and listen to it. It can genuinely change your life.